Hey guys, Liana here. I'm gonna try, it's Feedback Friday, I'm gonna try a character that somebody online suggested. Shout out to Nurgle. He said, try Devora, she's really good. So I'm gonna try Devora because it's Feedback Friday and I'm doing things based on feedback. That's how we roll. So a lot to get through today. It was a busy, busy week. First of all, I want to thank people for the support that people showed me regarding the Women of Mortal Kombat and diversity in Mortal Kombat videos. It's a common... I love Farah. It's... I just love her. But, you know, it's... A very common comment was, you know, that the fighting games don't get enough credit as a genre for the things they do right because it's just constantly criticized by violence. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think that people are, and I'm putting this into a few pieces, so I don't want to say too much, but I think people do get a little bit oversensitive about violence in video games, considering the amount of violence there is in other media. And I do admit, okay, good, there is ways to block it. Because I do admit that ovipositor move, it's one of my long-standing pet peeves about about fighting games, is that they tend to give certain female characters moves that are really easy to do and really hard to block because they're, I don't know, it seems to me like they're, I always think of my sister playing Street Fighter 2 with me and you know, playing, oh, whoa, you're not down. Okay, how's this done? Here we go, big moment. Back, forward, back, X. Okay. Back, forward, back, X. Back, forward, back, X. Hey, got it on the second one. Yeah, so my sister used to always play Chun-Li in Street Fighter 2. And all she would do is the head stomp. And the head stomp was really tough to block. So it was annoying. And I'd switch around characters, and I'd play Dalzim, I'd play Blanca. Blanca was my man in Street Fighter 2 because I always tend to go for the monsters, hence my love for Ferritor. But she'd always do this head stomp. And that, in my mind, you know, gamer childhood drama, in my mind that has become synonymous with the stereotype of girl gamer. And I know that's strictly emotional, but my sister doing Chun-Li's head stomp over and over and over again, that's why I don't identify with being a girl gamer. So, a little bit about me. Hey, Kitana's not a zombie. Hey. And that's the other thing I want to respond to, is people complaining about spoilers in my videos. And I don't know what they're talking about. I really don't know what spoiler that isn't already out in the press. I don't know what spoiler they're talking about because I started the little bit of story mode I did do right at the very beginning. It was all set up. There's no plot stuff that isn't known. So I'm very confused. I did not, obviously, I did not intend to put spoilers in videos. The thing about my videos, though, guys, is I'm actually playing this stuff cold. I don't really practice beforehand. People have told me I suck. This is cold. I'm not... you know, I looked up Devora's moves, so I didn't have to bore you with this stuff, but I didn't spend a lot of time maining the character to look like I knew what I was doing. I don't know what I'm doing here. Like... Case in point, I have to look up the stupid fatalities. So if a spoiler comes up, I'm not going to know about it in advance in these videos. These are gameplay videos. You guys are seeing it as I do. So sorry, but it's the nature of the beast. Okay? I don't do structured stuff on this channel. I do structured stuff for other services that pay me to do structured stuff. This is an additional thing to try to get, oh, jump 10 times is the thing? Okay, oops. This is me trying to get a little bit more dialogue with the audience. And that's what I want to move on to now, is the nature of that dialogue. I got really frustrated and I felt very overwhelmed this week, and I put up a video about the Calgary Comic Expo. And basically how I had no opinion on it, and that I was getting the sense that that people were just asking my opinion on Twitter because I'm a feminist who's willing to argue other feminists. And a lot of people got really angry at that. And the ironic thing is that the number of people who took offense to that was a factor of 4 larger, just based on the dislikes, than the people who actually did what I was complaining about. I said in the video that people have been, it was all weekend. It was all friggin' weekend. It started on Friday and then continued straight through to Monday. What do you think about Calgary? I don't know, I wasn't there. You know, I had some private conversations with some people who have actually talked about these things in the past, but people were coming out of nowhere. And I checked their tweets, and I'd look to see who they were talking to, and they already had their mind made up. So it was, I did feel, and I still feel, that these are people coming to me for ammunition. And I have never had anywhere near that number of dislikes on a video before, even when I go after Anita Sarkeesian. So that tells me that it ended up on some message board, some Chan or some Reddit. And they rallied the troops, and it was a brigade of a kind, because I have never had, I've dealt with a lot of contentious stuff. I go in there, and that number of dislikes, that is fishy to me, because like I said, it's 4 times larger than the people who are actually doing the behavior. So, overreaction there, guys. And this segs into some other things that have been going on in gaming right now, and I've been talking a lot about, and because I mean people say I'm too cozy with Gamergate.
Death is the warrior.
And the reality is I will talk to anyone who is willing to talk to me you know, respectfully. I will have a conversation. I'll talk to anti-GGers. I don't care, it's not my fight. You know, I talk to Gamergaters precisely because I'm exactly the kind of person that you'd think wouldn't, who would be sort of, you know, naturally opposed to them. And so I work very hard to not let my personal hurt over the generalizations of game journalists stop me from talking to otherwise good people. That's all. It's not that I'm not going to talk to somebody who is opposed to Gamergate. The problem is, I got put on a block list. And I've talked about this before, but I want to do it at length because this keeps coming up, you're too close to Gamergate. So, this is what happened. I was covering Gamergate. And that meant I would follow anti-Gamergaters, people like Brianna Wu and people like Feminist Frequency and people like that. I would follow them to see what they were saying. That's what follows are. And so, hey, I remembered it this time. So I would follow them. There's no penalty for following anti-Gamergaters. And so I probably had 3 or 4 of the ringleaders of, you know, Gamer Gazi mods. And in fact, I know I was following Gamer Gazi mods at one point. So then I followed the more outspoken Gamergate people. And that got me put on a list. It wasn't that I agreed with them. I was simply following them for information purposes. I wanted to see what both sides were saying. Now, this has become a real problem for me because now, because I got put on this auto blocker list, I'm blocked. I'm blocked from following anti-Gamergate people. I cannot see what they're saying. I cannot communicate with them. They have blocked me. And one of those accounts was apparently Feminist Frequency. Apparently that's why I got blocked by Feminist Frequency. They engaged the GG auto blocker. And so this is a problem because I'm being accused of being too cozy with the only side of the two sides. Never mind, you know, the thousands of people I talk to that are neither for or against. I talk to the people who are willing to talk to me. And an entire group of people have decided they are not interested in talking to me. You can't blame me for talking to one side when the other side won't talk to me. It has nothing to do with factional allegiance and everything to do with access. Okay? Does that make sense? And the problem, and this is the problem with gaming and why everybody's scared shitless right now, is because it's not about truth. It's people don't come to you for your side of something before they decide to run with a story. They just run with whatever seems the most fun. They don't request comment, or they do it so quickly that you only have about an hour, and if you're not on email, you know, that hour, they run the story without you. And that's a typical partisan news tactic. It's not exclusive to gaming. But the thing about gaming is that, you know, we do things like these streams when you're in the media, and these take a bit of time, so you are away from your email for chunks of time. And that, you know, I wish I got more of those, I admit. Most of the time people just run stories and they take something I said in a video or in something like that, which is totally fair. But I would prefer, unless somebody's, you know, talked to me previously, like, you know, people like, you know, Kathy Young, who quoted me in Time and things like that. She has reached out to me. She has gotten comment on things. She has a basic idea of where I'm at and how I come at things. So I'm not talking about that. But there was a time that both pro-Gamergate and anti-Gamergate were doing that. People were taking my words and either using them out of context or slightly or not so slightly misquoting them to make their side look better for whatever reason. And, you know, Auntie was quite happy to use my words against Gamergate until I started saying, no, I don't subscribe to a victim complex. Everyone takes crap online. If you want to talk about the nature of the crap, that's fine. But, you know, while someone swearing at me and calling me retarded, like they did over this Calgary thing, is rude and it shouldn't go on to anyone, ow. I wouldn't say that's misogynist. I wouldn't say that's a distinct hate against women. Total Biscuit gets the exact same thing, right? Jim Sterling gets the exact same thing, to use somebody on the quote-unquote other side, right? So I can't say that has anything to do with my gender. That has something to do with being a games writer and YouTube personality, okay? And that's when Auntie started souring on me. And that's crazy that I would say, you know, that, and I'd start correcting, you know, I had to correct Catherine Cross at one point, saying, no, that wasn't actually why Gamergate came after me. This was why. And I think she corrected it. But I noticed things starting to shift at that point. So this criticism I've been getting about being one-sided or only talking to one side, this is spin, right? This is spin of the highest order. I'm not talking to just one side. Only one side is willing to talk to me unless, you know, I see them smack-talking me somewhere else and they've unblocked or whatever for some reason, or people tell them that I'm going, hey, cut it out, and they unblock I don't know what. But the only time an auntie will talk to me these days is when they do something incredibly mean and untrue, and there's a fight. And that's the only progress that ever kind of sort of happens. So we can't live in a culture of fear that way. We can't live in this idea that just even talking to somebody, because I mean, God, you, as a reporter, you gotta talk to people you don't like. And there's very little actual, you know, investigative games journalism going on. And that's not because people don't want to do it. It's because as someone who has done it, who takes a month to do, you know, a 4-part series on something, it's not cost effective. There's not enough money. You know, that's for things like, you know, Rolling Stone or some of these magazines that pay $2 to $3 a word, right? Word counts in gaming are more like 10 cents a word. So the way you make money is to do a ton of quick, fluffy pieces, because there's a cap, right? So once you hit over whatever the word count is for the site, you don't make any more money, even if your piece is longer. Oh, Kano, you got me on that twice. Fool me twice, shame on me. So it's actually a structural issue with gaming. And I mean, you know, Polygon started out with the desire to do more long-form, you know, original source journalism. There's got to be a reason they stopped doing it, right? I mean, that was the reason Kano. That was the reason cheese ball move. I missed. That was the reason I started supporting Polygon in the first place, because I like those, I'm gonna lose this one. I like those Harper's Bazaar, New Yorker style interviews. And this is really annoying, guys. I've just lost my flow because I'm trying to think. And I think this is my last Mortal Kombat video I'm going to do with gameplay, because it's just too hard to talk and play at the same time. But see, this is an example of, and I know it's a balance thing. Everybody has characters that are harder or easier. But, oh, okay. Maybe I just suck. Yeah, I mean, there's a structural issue in terms of gaming not delivering the kind of stuff that, sorry I died there, I suck, crucify me, stupid noob. I hate that crap. I friggin' hate the noob stuff. That was another thing I was gonna talk about and forgot. Not everybody has infinite hours to put in playing a game and getting good, as the intentionally misspelled word is. And I don't like this stupid noob thing, because games are not supposed to be a competition unless you're into esports. That's why esports is, I mean, this, could you imagine, like, just let's use a comparison here. Let's take sports, like actual sports that people sweat playing, although I do sweat playing Mortal Kombat. Could you imagine if there was like amateur league hockey, and if somebody messed something up because they're relatively new about it and they're doing it for fun and, you know, socialization, and because they enjoy it, they want the activity. Could you imagine if every time somebody screwed up, it was, what the fuck is wrong with you? You stupid noob. Oh, you suck. You suck. Go home. You know, GTFO. Nobody would play. Nobody would play. And I've really become, because of the stupid fighting over nothing, and that's really the issue, is not whatever issue people are trying to argue regarding games. It's not it. It's the way it's done. You know, it's the way it's done. And everybody's guilty of this to one extent or another. But no one would play amateur sports if it was constantly abusive. I mean, they had to clean that up in minor hockey, right? Like, hockey is ahead of the curve in this way, recognizing that you can't abuse people. And okay, if you're playing competitively, which I don't, if you're playing competitively, I understand some psychology, you're trying to psych people out, there's money on the line, fine. But that's the same as professional sports. You know, they trash each other all the time on the, you know, the 50-yard line in football. You can see them mouthing through their helmets. They're yelling at each other, right? But that's pro sport. That's the, you know, the top, the elite, upper echelon. It's not people playing in their backyard. And that's how most people play games. That's most... You don't want... Let me see if I can explain this. You don't want a game reviewer who is the best player ever, because they are not going to be able to recommend games from a perspective of the average consumer. They are going to want a shit ton of challenge. You know, they're going, or they're going to be okay with absolutely no challenge, because very few games have any for them, because they're made for the average person, right? You don't want that player playing games to review. You want someone who's sort of middle of the road, not terrible, not really bad, knowledgeable about the genre, but an enjoyment player, like mid-core, as some people call it. Because they're gonna be able to recognize when something is too hard. And I mean, I screwed up on God of War Ascension. I missed the fact that there were parts of that game that were insanely hard for the average player, because I play a lot of God of War games and didn't have a problem with it. That was an error on my part. You know, trying to talk about delicate things while playing Mortal Kombat is an error on my part, because this game makes me very aggressive. And we know games do that. So I have to be aware that don't talk about things like the Calgary Comic Expo while playing Mortal Kombat. People will mirror your aggression. And reviewers make mistakes, but that's different than a reviewer constantly being out of touch with the public. And that is an issue in games, because I don't think it's fair to gamers when reviewers don't finish a game, unless you're invoking Wolpaw's Law, which is the idea that a game is essentially so terrible that nothing that comes afterward will change the opinion a reviewer has on the game. It's irredeemable, and so there's no ethical responsibility to finish the game at that point. Now, you don't hear Wolpaw's Law very much anymore, because there's a lot of, and I've heard this from developers, they see the completion rates, because everybody's hooked up to the internet and everything's download codes, right? People aren't finishing games. They spend 8 to 10 hours on them, which is not even the average time, you know, people would spend on, you know, your standard action game like an Uncharted or something like that. They spend 8 to 10 hours on it and call it a day. They think they have a sense of the game. I have a real problem doing that. I want to finish the game if at all possible, because if I don't finish the game, if a game doesn't hold me, that's an important thing to dictate from a consumer perspective. And again, I'm not talking about people like Total Biscuit who intentionally do first looks, and they're just that. Like, here's the first hour of the game, I'm not going to give my thoughts about the game in full, this is just, it is what it is. First look's fine. And I wish we could do more of that. I wish we could do, I mean, I like what some places are doing, that they're doing preliminary reviews so they can have them up at launch day and then update them later. That's a great idea for these really long games. And, you know, I like that. But the fact that we're seeing less and less, you know, Wolpaw's Law invoked means people aren't finishing the games. And that's not fair. But, you know, of course they're not finishing the games. They've got 1 million games to review. November last year was insane. I loved being able to review Assassin's Creed Unity. I loved being able to review Far Cry 4. Doing them a week apart, I won't do that again. As much as I love those games, because I finished them. And I feel like I was rushing through them and didn't get a lot out of it. And that's why I'll listen to people when they talk about their issues with certain issues they have with the way games press is conducted, because a lot of us feel the same way. It would just be nice if people were willing to listen to the other side about why things are the way they are. That doesn't mean we're not necessarily not in favor of change. It just means we'd like a little understanding that we're doing the best we can in an imperfect industry. And all industries are imperfect. And the thing I love about the thing I love about games is that we are willing to have these debates in public. We don't shy away from it. But that's going to change, and that is changing. People are too afraid to talk right now. People are way too afraid to talk right now because of the abuse they get over something as sometimes as simple in my experience as, I don't have an opinion on this one. That's not a dodge, guys. It's not a dodge. It's my honest belief that because of various things, I don't feel like I have the whole story, or I don't care to have the whole story, or I have past experiences with one or both parties that will not allow me to look at this objectively. Various things. I have the right to say I don't have an opinion on this one and not get accused of dodging. Because the other thing is, if I'm dodging, maybe I'm intimidated to talk about it. And if I'm intimidated to talk about it, there's a reason why. I'm not saying that was why at this point. I'm so used to people shitting all over me now. I don't care. It's when I see people with less of a profile having it done to them too that I have a problem. And sometimes I just don't want to stir the pot because of, out of consideration to them. And I utterly hate this fight because of his stupid chest blast. So I'm going to sign off now because I usually lose the first round. All right, guys, thanks for listening. That was a bit longer and more rambly than it is, but it always is. So have a great weekend, and let's really pray for, an end to this.